Hi friends, thanks for joining me today. In this tutorial, we're going to go ahead and just do a really basic kind of overview of SewArt, and we're going to use an SVG file for this. And that's to keep everything very basic and to make this go really fast. If you I have a lot of videos on how to do stuff with more stuff, but if you need more instruction with SewArt, just get a hold of me privately. I do classes for $10 an hour on Zoom. So just get a hold of me at cleverdogdesigns@gmail.com, and if you need more help than what this is going to be able to help you with. Okay, so we're just going to jump right in, and I'm going to go ahead and click up here. We have the open button or the file button that we can use to open things. This is just for new workspace, and if once you have SewArt, if you don't already have SewArt, you'll be able to see what all of the stuff on the toolbar does. But we're going to use quite a few of this stuff, quite a few things. So we're just going to go ahead and open, and I created this graphic for SewArt because it's just a simple graphic, and it gives us, different options that we can do within just this one simple graphic. So in here, we're going to go ahead and once we got our picture here, more stuff was lit up, and now we can use the crop. And crop, we're going to do this because right now, if we try to digitize it, it's going to digitize this very small, and it's going to include all of this. So we don't want it. We want to maximize our thing. We want this guy to be as big as possible in the hoop. Okay. So, and it even tells us over here the original size and the cropped size. I'm going to crop it to this size, and then we're going to resize it to make it bigger. Okay, so now it's cropped. We got rid of all that excess that we didn't need. And we can, you can, at this point, you can file, and if you choose Save As, it's going to give you an option to save this graphic. So that's kind of a cool tool. And right here, you can just choose Save and Save As. So everything that's in File is pretty much up here. Everything that's in here is on here. This is just easy to use it as a toolbar instead of having to click on each thing. But take time to go through all of these different things and see what they can do for the file that you're working on. One of my biggest pieces of advice is to just play. Just mess around, sew out what you want to sew out, but just play with SewArt and really just don't expect magic right away. Just have fun with it and see what it all does, okay? Oh, here's one that's really cool. I have not been able to get this to work for me, but this editor will help you change the different kinds of fill stitches that you can use. So that's kind of cool. These are different options that you can use to, have different viewing of SewArt, have it change the way it works for you, and have graphs or the lines and stuff like that. And then here's where you want to go for updates and stuff like that. You go update now, or you can turn on auto updates. All right, so you just go through those and play with all of that stuff whenever you have SewArt, if you don't already at least have the demo. If you're just checking this out, it's just kind of obviously with any software. You're going to just want to go through everything and just see what everything does. So we have an undo button. All of this stuff is, grayed out because we don't have anything selected. If we did, then we would be able to cut it, we'd be able to copy it, paste it. We're not going to use any of that stuff, but I'm pretty sure that you guys understand how those things work. If you don't, please contact me and I can give you a little bit more information on how those work, okay? So there's the undo button. We don't want to undo. We can do a rotate, so we can turn the egg on its side. We can turn it upside down. That seems silly, but you know what I'm saying. You can also do a reflect. Can't really tell with this. It just flips it to the other side. Right here we have resize image. And when we brought it in, remember it was like 9 inches wide. And then when we cropped it, it changed it down to this. Well, my hoop is a 4x4 hoop, and it can handle a size of up to 3.89. So I'm going to click OK, and now I have a big piece. That makes me happy. And right here we can go in and crop it more, which we don't need to. And if we had multiple colors and sharp lines going on that we kind of wanted to melt into things, into each other, we could use Posterize. We're not going to use it for this project, but you know, like I said, just bring in an image and mess around with it. I do have an upcoming class with Cindy Narula from our group, and it's going to be an intermediate class, and it'll give you a lot more information on about how these work. Okay, I've also done other videos in the past, so you can go through my old SewArt videos, and they should still give you all that same information. Dang it. Sorry about that interruption. Let's get that out of the way. Sorry about that interruption. So I was just saying, I think, oh yeah, I was just saying that you can go through my old SewArt playlist and find, you know, individual videos about a lot of this stuff. I don't usually use these auto functions, so you're not going to find a lot of videos with me using them. I like to do things manually. Right here, color reduction, this is something that a lot of people, you know, struggle with. This one, we just have 2 colors, but if we were to bring it in as a PNG, it would come in as 256 colors. And we'd have to reduce colors at a certain amount so that it didn't alter the video or alter the image too much. And that's, you know, kind of a little bit longer of a class. But in this class, we just have 2 colors. We have the white in the back and the black here. And then if we had more colors, we would be able to do merge colors. This is one of my favorite tools. And you know what, we'll actually run back over these because we are going to change the colors of this egg. So I wasn't going to do that. I haven't done that in classes, but I'm going to do that. And also just a disclaimer, I'm not, you know, affiliated with SewArt in the way that I'm making this video for that company. This is my personal knowledge of SewArt and stuff I don't know, I just don't know. And stuff I do know, I'd like to share with you guys. This is all stuff I've just figured out. It's nothing I've taken classes for, and I might be wrong about some of it. So just so you know, I'm not a professional person on this. If you have questions that aren't answered in this, you can certainly feel free to ask me. But if you really want a timely answer, please contact S&S Computing and ask them directly your questions, okay? All right, so in here we have the brush. We have line, filled, rectangle, filled ellipses. That'll give you, here. So obviously, oh, they want us to do it in there. So it gives us that option. Gives us a line that we can make straight or not. So we can create our graphics in SewArt. That's kind of a really cool thing. We can add to it and stuff like that. Here's a filled rectangle. Undo. And then it says filled ellipse, which is just a circle. However, this pencil drawing mode is a little bit different. You get freehand pixels. I'm going to pick a little bit thicker of a line. Let's zoom in too. So we have freehand. That's nice. And then we can thicken the lines. That's interesting. Let's undo that. With this, we don't want them too close together because it's got to do some stuff. We need them to be a little bit separate. So let's undo that guy too. Rectangle with the outline. So this is where this differs a little bit from using the brush. So we're going to get an outline. And same with the elliptical or elliptical. It does say elliptical. The other one is a ellipse. That's funny. Okay, so just play around with this stuff too. One of my favorite things about whenever I first learned doing SewArt was just the amount of stuff that I sat and embroidered for hours and hours, and half of the stuff was junk and got thrown away, but it was so cool that I created things, you know. So let's go ahead and we're just going to pick 3 different colors, kind of stand out. All right, so those look like happy good colors. I'll click OK. And so we have 5 colors now? No, 4 colors. I can't count. Okay, so we have 5 colors, and now our color reduction, the wizard, the posterize, the merge colors, that's all showing up now. We don't need any of that stuff, but we'll go in here, and in here you can choose for all of these different levels. Posterization level, I'm not sure if it's going to do much for this, but let's set it at 50 and see if it changes anything. Oh, yeah, so undo, put that back down. Feature blending, let's turn it up and see what happens. Oh, nothing. Okay, despeckle level, turn it up, see what happens. Ah! So, you know, like I said, just play with it. Oh, no, I want my colors. Okay, I have to go back in there. Sorry, guys. Okay. Oops. Okay. I was like, why isn't that up? You have to click on it to get out of that little screen. Okay, so back over here. So that was posterized. The image wizard kind of just walks you through everything. So you're going to want to read all of this through. I don't want to do that to you. And then right here, it gives us, you know, you basically want to reduce the colors. We want to turn it back to black and white, basically. So that's not going to let us if we do it like that. So we're going to have to do it 3 colors. Oh, but we have 4 colors. So it's not, this isn't really a good example, but say we want to bring it down to 2 colors. We're going to go next, and then they're going to reduce the color number by merging the image colors. So we're going to just choose the highest one, choose next, reduce the speckles, 100%. It's not really going to change it. So when you're doing like a photo, you really want to take your time and go through each of these. But with something like this, we know it's not going to change anything. And then it says merge any remaining small percentage colors, and currently there are 2 colors. We're just going to hit 12.21, and there we go. That is our wizarded image. And now I'm going to undo all of it. Oh, okay. So undo is kind of really weird on here. Never know what it's going to undo. All right. So that was our image wizard. Color reduction, we don't need to. We've got 4 colors though. And then merge colors, like I said, this is one of my favorite ones, but there's not really anything to do with this specific one. But say you have something that has a lot of colors. You want to merge anything that's, let's say anything over 9% or below the following value. Let's click OK and see what it does. So I don't think I did that right. Well, yeah, like I said, this isn't the best example to use for this, but it should let, if there's more colors, there's things to merge, but there isn't, it should let you merge it with the very next color next to it. But we don't really have anything to do to it, so we're just going to click OK and get out of there. So I hope that was a little bit helpful in that stuff. Like I said, that takes a little bit more time, so it's more of an intermediate class only because it takes more explanation and more sitting there and just digitizing. So with the eraser tool, you have to click white if your background is white, or yellow if your background is yellow, or green, you know, if you wanted to kind of erase something weird in your green area or add something. So that's your eraser. These are your shapes tool. This is kind of cool. This gives you pre-made shapes that already have outlines. And they have a bunch of basic stuff, but they added a bunch of other cool stuff over the years. Like frequently requested things. So basically with these, you can choose one of these and then, you know, do all the steps to get it prepared for digitizing, and then it already has the outline on it. So you can have it do the default stitch on the outside and your satin stitch on the default stitch on the inside and satin stitch on the outside, and you don't have to create the shape. It's already done. But we don't want him. How do we get rid of him now? I know undo does not seem to want to be working. Nothing is working. I'll see, there we go. Okay, you have to actually select delete with your fingers on your laptop. And now, because SewArt is so fun like that, we're going to go back in, add our color again. Okay, so, no, I don't want to see that. All right, so red work is something that, again, we're not going to be able to use with this image. That's another, you know, intermediate class that I really still don't know very much about, but it's amazing. And it's amazing that we have this option within SewArt. I just wish I was really good at it. If you're somebody that's really good at it and want to, you know, work with me on doing a tutorial, I would love to work with you. Please let me know. All right, so from here, we're just going to jump into the stitch image button, okay? And this is where we go to create, you know, our PES file or whatever kind of file you have for your machine. And in here, it starts us with a default fill, which is very nice. That's what we like. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you what the default looks like. It looks like, you know, every other embroidery fill stitch. Okay, but the other cool thing about SewArt is that you can add a different kind of stitch. So let's clear that stitch and choose that, and look at this pretty stitch. And it'll lay it down like a pretty floss, and then this part is embossed. So you'll have to see it for yourself to really understand what I'm saying. And I'll show you on my class samples here at the end of the video. But it's very, very cool. I think it's on my class samples. I probably should have double checked those before I started this. But in any case, play around, check out all the different ones they have. They have tons of different ones. And the PAS editor that I told you about that was in the drop-down menu for tools up here, that's how you make your own of these in here. Like I said, I've never got it to work on my computers, but it is, I got it to work a long time ago, I think, and that's how I know what it does, but I haven't been able to figure it out since. So if you can figure it out, that would be really, really cool. All right, so we're going to go ahead and clear stitches, go back to our default, number 20. Okay, and then the variable width satin stitch. I have a separate video for that I'll include in the comments or in the description. That takes a little bit more time to kind of talk about and explain. So we're going to work on that in a different video. However, you can use it to do outlining. So that's really cool because the SewArt satin stitch that comes with SewArt, it literally follows every bump you have. So like see in this image how it's kind of bumpy. It doesn't really matter for the default stitch, but whenever we want to do the automatic satin stitch, it's going to bump everywhere there's a bump. That's going to stitch out very nicely. This is going to bump, 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 and do weird things here. So that's, you know, just letting you know that we can use the variable width satin stitch, but the explanation for that takes a little bit longer. probably just as long as it took me to explain all of that to you. Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's go back to our default stitch up here. Okay, and then we're going to skip over the cross stitch. We're going to do that in the middle, but we're going to kind of stay on this one and then move down. So over here on outline border and outline center line, these are so like outline border is going to go around, this is going to be our automatic satin stitch I was just talking about. It's going to go around this piece, and the outline center line would go around it if it was a line that made this and like it was white in the middle. I hope that makes sense. So like it just had a line to follow. That's what center line is. Okay. Outline border is going to border whatever your graphic is. And I like to seed these on a very flat part of the graphic. So, oh, another part over here. We have to do the height and the length of it. Okay, so we want a tall height and a short length. Okay, we're going to go down here. Oh, clear that stitch. Oh, I didn't want to clear all of them. My gosh, you guys. Oops. So default, and then we're going to come over here to outline border, 40 and 2. But right here, it was still on running stitch. I need to bring it down to satin. If you wanted to do the variable width satin stitch, it'll bring up that screen for you, okay? So satin stitch right here. I'm going to seat it right here in the middle. Okay, what happened to the rest of my thing? Okay, that was really weird. So SewArt does some weird stuff sometimes. It's not perfect, you know, but neither am I. So, all right, so outline center line, like I said, it has to have a line to follow. So it would be like that's empty in the middle, and it has, you know, it can go around that and turn. So outline center line, the different options we get for an outline are the running stitch, which is just your regular push through the sewing machine stitch. The bean stitch is a cute one that goes forward and comes back and kind of creates the hand sewn look. Blanket stitches are cute. They're like blanket binding on like fleece blankets, and they have an inner and an outer one. And then of course the satin stitch, the automatic satin stitch, and then the variable width satin stitch. Okay. So applique is a lot the same. We're going to skip over this middle guy too, because I kind of want to keep our brains in the same line of thinking. So down here we're going to do applique. An applique border and applique center line, they're exactly the same as outline border and outline center line. So outline or applique border, what it's going to do though is it's going to give us it's going to give us 3 stitches instead of just the one that goes around here. It's going to give us a die line to go onto our stabilizer to show us where to put the fabric, and then it's going to do a tack down. So it's going to give us a die line, we're going to put the fabric down, and then it'll do a tack down, and then you cut around it, and then it does the final stitch. Okay, that's what applique does. Applique border is what we're going to use because we have these big blocks. But if we had, you know, had it hollowed out in the middle and it was just that line that went around it, we would use applique center line. Okay, so on here, we can use any of these different ones that we want. Bean, blanket, satin, variable width satin stitch. I think that I used blanket 1 on, I don't know why I don't have my class samples with me while I'm teaching this, but I think that's what I used on here. Okay, that looks like it's an outer blanket. So let's delete that. And did I do, Gosh, I can't remember what happened. Nope. Sorry. I just heard somebody pull up and I thought it was my boss, and it wasn't, so. Okay, so obviously we want to change our height and length a little bit. Probably gonna do 2 and 20 on this. Will it fix it? Nope. Oh yeah, it did. Oh, gosh, why did I do that again? Okay, I had to redigitize the front because I accidentally cleared all the stitches again. But now we're back here, and so what we're going to do is we're going to click on Applique Border, and we're going to choose blanket number 2, and we're going to have it go 2 and 20, and we're going to start up here in this flat spot. Okay, so that doesn't really seem that big to me. So let's see, maybe, well, you kind of get the picture of what it's doing. I'm not going to sit here and try to bug it all day. Just play around with your settings and see which one you like the best. But this is the one that kind of looks like it does that, and then you stitches in and it goes back up and it goes over the top and stitches down and then goes back up and down. Okay, and so with Applique, when we look in SewArt Pro, I'm going to show you at the end of this. When we look at SewArt Pro, it's going to show us for this number 3, it's going to give us 3 different sew outs. Okay, remember that. That's why there's a difference between applique and just a regular outline. Okay, so let's just go ahead and go to the cross stitch, which is really, really fun. Cross stitch is going to be 20 by 20. It's going to be your nicest looking one. You want to always play it with it, and you can also play with angles here. It's kind of cool. And 20 by 20, and in here you can pretty much click anywhere. And it's going to give us a weird sew out look. So like this one looks like the kind of, cartoon of what it's going to look like. This too, but this is actually going to look normal when we look in SewArt Pro. Okay, so that's really kind of all there is to basic digitizing in SewArt. There's a lot of different options you can do, a lot of different things to play with, and I know that I probably went a little bit fast for some of you, and I'm sorry. I just want to get this information out to you guys, and it's been a while since I've made a video like this. So at the end of this, we can choose right here for save or save as. I always choose save as, and it brings up this screen right here. The first screen, it says save image file. This will come up automatically, and you want to choose save file type, and you can save your file type as any of these that you want to. And that'll save this new image. It's not going to save this, cartoon stitch out, but it's going to save the egg with the 3 new colors. Well, 4, I guess, because it includes the back color. So, but I don't need to do that. So I'm going to hit cancel. Then it's going to bring up our save embroidery file. And mine says graphic for SewArt. Right here is where you can choose what kind of file type. I think there's 7 different kind of file types in here, but in SewArt Pro there's like 30 or more. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 8 different kinds. I have PES, so that's what I'll save for me. The design scale factor, we can make this bigger or smaller by going 1.1, oh, 11.1, 1.1, or we can make it smaller by going 0.89. So it just kind of scales it for you a little bit differently. And at the end, if you forgot to resize it in the beginning, it's kind of a nice little tool. So we want it to be 1.01. Nope, just 1, because any bigger won't let us, it won't show up on our sewing machine. So minimum stitches in a color block, 4 joint adjacent colored threads, that's always clicked. These are clicked too, and this is my hoop size that's like default. This is a default as well. So then most of the stuff is already all filled out whenever you go in here. So I'm just going to save mine to the desktop, and we'll say today is 9/10. Oh, they're not going to let me save it like that. Just 9/10. Save. Then we get another little cartoon over here. And as you can see in that cartoon, you can see the cross stitch. So it's very cute. And that looks like it just gave us a running stitch. It doesn't look like it liked the settings that I gave us. So play around with your settings. On our blog website, we actually have a whole page that's dedicated to the correct SewArt default, like it's default versus desired stitch settings. So like go in there and check that out. I'll put that in the bottom as well. So we're all done with this. Let's take it over to SewArt Pro and see what it looks like in there. And you'll see right here, this is kind of why you would want to do, I don't want to update right now. This is why you would want to do variable width satin stitch, because see how it's all jaggedy here and all weird at the end. Okay, let's close that. Now we're going to open desktop. There we go. Okay, so these are a little bit close together. Oh, I didn't mean to move that. There we go. So I'm just going to move this down just a tiny bit. Okay, there we go. This is what it's supposed to look like. The blanket stitch didn't do what it was supposed to do, but it still did give us the applique. So, you know, when we do a test stitch, I wonder what, I'm not going to do a test stitch for this. I'm going to show you guys my class samples at the end of this. But if we did a test stitch, I wonder what stitch we would get there. It looks like a running stitch, so interesting. Anyways, so let's start from the very beginning. Our stitch number 1 is going to be this default stitch, and so our default stitch is almost always pretty nice. Sometimes there's a gap in it, and sometimes that's your stabilizer and the material that you're using, and sometimes it's the design, sometimes it's the software. So if you've done all those things, you know, and you're still having trouble, contact S&S because they can help you figure that out. So here's our satin stitch that didn't turn out very nice on here, but you know, if you're just doing like gifts for little kids for, you know, that they probably were never even going to think of again, they probably wouldn't even care. And if you were doing it on like blankets and stuff like that, people probably wouldn't generally even notice within the pile, but you'll know. So there's that. So we'll go from here, and then it comes down here and it gives us our 3 different options. This one is going to be our die line. It's going to be the first part of the applique that stitches out. And then the second one is going to be the tack down. So that's where you use the die line to place your fabric, and then the tack down will go around and put that design with a running stitch down on your fabric. And then the last one is your final stitch, and that's the one that would have, you know, your bean stitch, your blanket stitch, your satin stitch, however you wanted to finish that off. And then in here we have our lovely, cute little cross stitch. Oops. Didn't want to let me do cross stitch, just cross. All right, so I'll just finish filling that in. Default, and then outline. Oops. That way you outline. That way you can kind of, you know, have a visual for what each of these things are. So, oops, I didn't mean to do that. So, teal green is default. Why did I say, oh, because it's the default stitch. Okay, teal green for the outline, die line, tack down, final stitch, and you can change these colors. So like say you want the final stitch to be different so you can tell which color's coming up next. Oh, it looks like it did like a bean stitch on there. It looks nice. All right, and then of course our lovely cross stitch. So that's all there really is to sewing or digitizing with SewArt for a basic, you know, kind of overview from my understanding of it. If you need further information or instruction from somebody smarter than me, I can definitely send you in the right direction. Obviously, going to S&S Computing is going to be your very, very best option because they're really smart. But you can also just pose questions in the group and get answers from lots of different people with lots of different levels of understanding of SewArt. So we have a lot of really good, smart people in the group. So I'll put a link to that too, and that one's on Facebook. Anyways, I hope that this is helpful. I'll see you guys in a couple seconds though. Don't go just yet. I'm going to show you the stitch outs on the class samples, okay? See you in a sec. Okay guys, here is a stitch out of the egg. So it doesn't have the fancy stitch inside of it, which I should have known, but just check out those different stitches. They're very, very beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in so you can see each part. Oh, I already am zoomed in. I want you to see how the automatic satin stitch does. So like I said, it's going to follow every bump, and then on the bottom how it's straight. Look how nice that satin stitch is. But then it goes back to the side where there's all those bumps, right? So that's why using the variable width satin stitch would be better in this situation. I think in other situations you might, I mean, you know, just play around with things. There's the cross stitch. That's the setting of 20 by 20. And it looks like hand cross stitch, except it's not going to be as close to, like, as close together. I wish I could explain that better. Like, you can tell that they're rows instead of them being right, you know, right on each other like they would be with cross stitch, but it's still close enough to get the effect. And I bet some tweaking around and really understanding more about SewArt will probably help you do a much better job than I did. And then this is the applique part. This is where they gave me the three different the three different stitch outs with one click of a thing, and I chose the applique outline. And so it gave me a die line, which was just a running stitch, and then that's what I knew to put my fabric down. Then it gave me the tack down stitch, and so then whenever it did the tack down I was able to cut around the edges, and then I just did a running stitch again on the end of this. But you can play around with those final stitches and see what you come up with. So that's what we got for this. I also wanted to show you guys the variable width satin stitch class sample that I use. So this is, you know, it's not perfect. I'm not a perfect digitizer, but right here, you know, everything looks pretty good except for in a couple spots. And that just means I needed to slow down and kind of take my time with that, and I didn't. And then this part is messed up because I jumped from here over to here instead of going in and digitizing it correctly. So other than that, it looks pretty good. This is how the back looks, just so you know. Looks really nice and full. And then let's show you the back of this. So the back of these is pretty nice and clean too. So if you have any questions at all, please comment below. Please like and subscribe to my channel. I guess there's this algorithm thing that we're supposed to be performing for. So if you don't mind, if you're not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to it. Please click the like button, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.